Good evening, everyone. Good night, whatever. I just want to apologize, first of all, for chewing celery in the microphone. That was really gross. But I have an excuse. I'm from Kentucky, so we sort of do that thing, that kind of thing. So basically, I just want to share with you a story tonight of something that happened in Honduras. I used to live in Honduras for about 3 years, and I went back last summer and had a really interesting experience, and I want to tell you about it. Could somebody give me some water? Maybe a candy or something? I won't chew it. So, thank you. That's great. So I want to talk about working with the poor and God's providence, and how the two kind of go together. So we had to start this little story. We'll start it about 4 years ago. You see this little mark on my head right here? I'm going to put your finger there.
What's your reaction?
That's deep. That's deep. That's disgusting. I have a hole in my head because 4 years ago I was in Honduras and I was playing basketball and I was playing with guys that were way too big for me, and one of them knocked me over and I hit my head and I had 4 seizures and I bled all over the place and I went unconscious and I should have died. I didn't. And a really great doctor saved my life. The Lord saved me, I think, pretty miraculously, honestly. But so then we'll fast forward. Last summer, I was back in Honduras, just visiting, and I saw a lady, I would say a friend, a lady that I knew there who's really, really, really extremely poor. Extremely poor. She has a whole lot of children. And when I got to see her, I saw that she had a new child with her that I had not met before, and her name was Paola. And I noticed that Paola had kind of a big head, kind of bigger than a child her age should have. She was about 7 months. And so I asked about it, and Suyama told me, well, we think that she has some kind of disease, but we're not really sure. Suyama is a very poor woman. She wouldn't have the language to say what this girl had or did not have. But I kind of figured out that she probably had a disease called hydrocephalus. Water on the brain, it's sometimes called. And if that goes untreated, the head will just keep swelling and swelling and swelling and swelling. I saw in Nicaragua, I met a woman who had a baby, a child that was 7 years old. And you know how big a 7-year-old is. He's maybe that tall or so. And his head was, I don't see this to be graphic or anything, but just so you know, his head was probably about this big. And she carried him around the market, begging for money. So I had that in my mind. When I met little Paola Nicole, I remembered Jason in my mind, and I didn't want to see that happen, you know. So anyway, a number of tragic things happened. Suyapa and her marido, Antonio, were on the street one day, and Antonio was shot and killed, and Suyapa was shot in the arm. It was really tragic, and Suyapa was at her wit's end. She didn't know what to do. She was there with so many children, and so Father Augustino went with me. He was with me at the time. He went and anointed Suyapa. And Suyapa just said to us, she said, just take care of my kids. Please take care of my kids. We didn't know if she was going to live or what. It looked like she was going to be okay. We weren't sure. So we did that. We decided we want to help take care of her kids. And I remembered that they had tried to get an appointment for Paola in Tegucigalpa, the capital. And so I said, when Suyapa kind of she did recover, and when she came to and got her act together, I said, so Yapa, you remember you had spoken to me about that appointment that you had in Tegucigalpa. What do you think? Can we make that happen? I know we've grieved for Antonio. It's a terrible situation, but can we look after Paola? Can we do something for her? And she said, yeah, let's go. So I got in the car. I asked this brother to go with me, Brother Gerard. Some of you might know him. I really wanted to take Brother Gerard because I don't have a lot of faith. I'll be honest with you guys. I wish I had more faith than I do. But Brother Gerard, I know he has a lot of faith. So I said, Brother Gerard, come on. So we drove to Tegucigalpa. And the funny thing was, Brother Gerard and I was so eager to get there really, really early because I knew we got to get in there, we got to get things done. But Brother Gerard, he sort of trusted in God. And so he was taking his time, and he had like two huge duffel bags. I said, brother, we're just going for the day. What are you doing? And he had all of his evangelization materials in there, So I'm not exaggerating, carrying these things. He can barely fit in the cab of the car, of the truck. So we're like 45 minutes late, Okay. And I'm totally impatient at this point. So we get there to the hospital, to Hospital Escuela. And what you hear is what it means. Escuela, like people are learning how to be doctors. And that's what it's like. And it's just total chaos there. There's thousands and thousands of people. There's hundreds upon hundreds of doctors running around all over the place. Nobody's getting treated. It's a disaster. I almost lost my life in that hospital that time that I had that injury. So we get there, and I go up to the window, and I say, hi, I think we have an appointment. Slide it under the window there. I think we have an appointment for Paola Nicole here. And the guy looks at it and is like, no. What? No hay cita aquí. Okay. Well, can we get her a cita? Yeah, where's the birth certificate? He says to me. And I go, so yeah, but where's the birth certificate? No hay. And I said, oh no, the baby had been born in the house, so they didn't ever go to register her. So I go back and I said, well, there's no birth certificate. He says, suerte, pues. Right? I mean, what are you going to do? The child's not registered. He says, if you want to go, you can go over to the window there where they're doing infant neurology, a neurologist. And so we walk over there, and there's like a line of like 50 people standing outside of a closed door. I think, this looks really great, We don't even have a birth certificate. There's a line of 50 people. So I just say, Brother Gerard, you got to pray. And he did. He started praying, and I started worrying. And we were there for like a half an hour. Nothing's happening. And so I was like, well, bro, I think we're just going to leave because I don't know. We got to just go back to Comau. We were like 2 hours away from the house, right? So we go, and we're standing there in the lobby, sort of close to where I tried to get the cita for the girl. And we're just standing there looking totally bewildered and lost. And this lady comes up, and she goes, hi. I'm like, hi. Can I help you? Probably not. I don't think so. And I said, well, why do you think that you could help me? I didn't say it quite that way. I was a little more polite. Why do you think that you can help me? And she said, well, I was a nurse here for 34 years, and I'm retired now, and I just come sometimes to help people. Oh, maybe you can help me. So, in the midst of that, I'm standing there, right? And all of a sudden, someone comes up and hugs me. Remember, there's like thousands of patients, a few hundred doctors. It's total chaos. Somebody comes up and hugs me and says, Dismas! That's my name in Spanish, Dismas. What the heck? And it was a doctor. And it was the doctor who had put this hole in my head, the one that saved my life, right? Like 4 years ago. And I said, oh, Dr. Ovidio, it's so good to see you. And very, very quickly, my mind started churning. I'm thinking of all the things we could do. So I'm like, oh, you're a doctor, right? You work here, right? Do you think that you can help me with this little girl, Paola Nicole? I think she has something called hydrocephalus. And he says, well, I'm the doctor that does those operations. So in the midst of all these things, it's this really miraculous thing that this accident that I had ended up being the catalyst for the miracle in this baby's life. So anyway, he says, come tomorrow. And you know, Brother Gerard the whole time was praying. Or he was singing Spanish songs with someone. He doesn't even speak Spanish. He really doesn't. But he was getting things done in a way that, I mean, I just happened to be there. I happened to have had that accident. But it was really him that did anything. I was just there worrying. So anyway, he says, come back tomorrow to my office and come in the back door, you know, where there had been that huge line of people. So we go, and he wants to offer us to do it the next day. Oh, okay. Well, I don't think we're ready for that. See, I've had to go back and get a surgery for her arm, and so we scheduled for 2 weeks later, and we come back, and so you know, I'm all confident now, right? So I'm not worried anymore because we got the cita, right? But I said, hey, Brother Jerry, why don't you come with me anyway? You know, just in case, you know. So we get there, and this is like 2 weeks later, and Brother Gerard goes to donate blood for the baby, because whenever you're going to have a surgery in Central America, someone in your family or your friend has to donate blood for you to sort of fill the blood bank. Okay. So Brother Gerard goes to donate blood and to pray, I'm sure. And so I went to the sala de no sé qué, de neurología, pediatría. So we go up there, and I've got the little girl with me, and I'm like, hey, yeah, we got a cita tomorrow. And the lady, literally, the lady, the nurse says to me, this sala is totally full. There's no room here. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? But because of that experience that I had last time, I was beginning to learn something about providence. I was beginning to get it through my thick skull. And so my reaction would have been before, no, I don't think you understand. She has a cita, and that means she has a bed here, and you're going to give it to her. Honestly, that was what I was feeling inside. Right? But I said, oh, well, there's no bed, okay. Are you sure there's no bed? You know? And we had this meaningless conversation for about 5 minutes about how there was no bed for us. And finally, I just sat down. And have you ever heard of the speed novena? Yeah. So Mother Teresa, whenever she wanted something, which was often, and she always got what she wanted, she would pray 9 memorare prayers. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known. So I was like, well, all right, 9 prayers, here we go. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary. So I'm just praying to myself, sitting there, praying. I was praying to God, not to myself. I was praying under my breath. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was known. And you know, I was really beginning to believe that maybe it was going to happen, because why am I angry? Because we are not entitled to anything. What are we entitled to? We're not entitled to the bed. We're not entitled to the surgery. We're not entitled to God's grace. Everything that had happened up to that point was total gratuitous grace, love of God. What do I think that I'm claiming for myself or for her? Now it was all sort of happening in my mind as I was praying these 9 memorares. And when I got to the last one, the nurse comes over, And she says, suerte. And I looked up and I said, Señora, no se llama suerte. So a bed had been freed up, and she really, yeah, there's the cita. And la cita divina. And so we put her in the bed, and I was slated to go home like the next day. So I didn't get to see the surgery, but sure enough, she got it. But just to sort of round out the story, give it a little beautiful ending, Brother Gerard and I prayed with them, left them there in the hospital, and we went to a church nearby to do a holy hour just before we would drive back to Comayagua for the night. And when I was in the holy hour, it occurred to me that Paola had never been baptized. You know, she was born in, she didn't even have a birth certificate. She'd never been baptized. So I called my superior and I said, hey, Father, she's never been baptized. She's about to have like serious invasive surgery tomorrow. What should I do? He said, will you baptize her? You may or may not be aware that priests and deacons are the ordinary ministers of baptism, but anybody can do it in an emergency situation. So I just took a little water bottle, we went back, and I baptized her, and she entered into the reign, the family of God, and she ended up. So I would just conclude with reminding us all that verse of 2 Corinthians 12, God is made strong in my weakness. You see it so clearly when there's extreme poverty, when there's the anawim, there's extreme providence. And that applies to us too. The more we allow God to work through our weakness, the more extreme his providence will be.